Hello everybody, welcome to Dream GM. Today we are going to analyze the game between Mikhail and Johann Hjartarson, which is held in 1987 and get the title of Broken Hazard. And we have a strongest computer in the world, Stockfish 17, and game start with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop b5. This is a Spanish game, and we also called it Ruy Lopez game. And game continue with a6, kicking out the bishops, and bishops back to a4, trying to sneak in this light square. Knight f6, attacking the pawn, and Tal castle. If he takes, he just can bring the rooks out, or can play the d4 with a counter attack. And bishops e7, played by Hjartarson. He is preparing to castle to the king side as Mikhail did. Mikhail defend the pawn with the rook and put the light square bishops to the king side, and game continue with b5, attacking the bishops. Bishops back to b3, trying to sneak around this light square after castling to the king side, and black castle to the king side, c3. Followed idea is to playing d4 and put the bishops in this diagonal to keep an eye on light square. d6, protecting the pawn in the center, and make a pawn chain and opening the light square for bishops. And these all are actually book moves. Game continue with h3, knight a5, attacking the bishops and trying to create the space in the c4 square for the future. Bishops back to c2, trying to sneak the light square to the king side as he always do, and c5, completely dominating the center of the board. And Mikhail played d4, trying to attacking the pawn and fight for the center. King c7, queen c7, sorry, queen c7. These all are actually book moves. This is protecting the knight, and if he takes, he take with the queen and pinning the pawn to the king. This is the idea. And this is this this is the opening phase, and this is Spanish game, or we can say Ruy Lopez close variation, or Sigorian defense c9-7, bishops to d7, trying to cover the more light square. Knight back to f1, trying to go to g3 and f5 in the future, or maybe h5, or trying to create counter play to the king side. And here we have a move c takes d4. He wants to trade some material here. C takes d4 as well. If he take, he can take with the knight or either with the queen, sorry. And he's doubling the queen and the rook and attacking the light square bishops, which is keeping eye on the entire light square here. Bishops, and he's protecting with the knight and also developing a knight and trying to play or cover some space for the future. Knight back to c3, trying to attacking the pawn and trying to bring the knight to the king side and attacking from king side here. And we have a move to d5, attacking the knight and making a pawn chain here, which are protected by all of these powerful pieces here. And he's attacking the bishops, which is covering the entire light square here. Bishops back to b1, keep an eye on light square and also protect the knight d3 and knight c2. And here we have a move to a5. This is actually making the escape way for the knight, because if we attack the pawn there is no way the knight can escape. And he attacked the knight with the pawn. Knight back to a6, and knight square are completely cut off here. Knight couldn't come here. And he also covered the only square here for the knight. Pawn g6, trying to make some escape way for king. Bishop c2, protecting the pawn, which is attacking by the pawn and knight, and trying to develop other bishops. And he trade the pawn to the queen side, and he attacks the knight. Mikhail attacks the knight. He doesn't have a square on c5. The only square he have to go to b8, or after b8 knight doesn't have any square left. Basically knight is trapped. So Johann defend with queen and making some escape route for the knight. If knight to c7, then protecting the pawn and can go to the king side in the future. Mikhail develop pieces, light square bishops, and attacking the pawn here. Knight back to c7 and protecting the pawn. Knight back to c2. This is actually a waiting move, or trying to attack the pawn with more pieces. And we have a knight to h5, trying to cover this square and make the way for the bishops, dark square bishops, which are pairing here. Subs to e3. This is actually a waiting move, or he's threatening to rook a7 and trying to create a kebab here. And he doesn't want this. He want to trade the rooks. Mikhail, queen d2. If you take my rook, then I can take with this. Johann take with the rook, and he trade with the knight. He doesn't take with the rooks because this knight have no square, so he take the knight back to a1 and trying to threaten to come b3 and a5 in the future, or maybe in the c6 also. We have a move f5, trying to trade in the center, or if Mikhail doesn't take, he can attack with the attack to the bishops, because these dark square bishops doesn't have any square to go, so he have to take, or he can go back to h6 attacking the rook. And Johann pins the knight to the rook. Actually this pinning is bad in chess. If you got pinned, then it's very hard to play against your opponent. Knight to b3, trying to create space for knight to a5 and attacking the queen, and covering the c6 square as well. Johann push the pawn forward and blocking the way of bishops and the queen here. Knight to f5 attacking the queen and threaten to cover the c6 square, which is very crucial for black. And Johann play queen b6, trying to pin the king to the pawn to the king, and covering this square also, and also protecting the pawn here. Rook to c7, c1, sorry, and he's completely covering the c file, and most importantly c6 square, and he's protecting this square for the knight. Rook to a8, trying to get off this knight, but this knight is protected the pawn and the queen. This is really hard to remove this defense here. Queen to c2, attacking the pawn with queen and the rook. Knight c8, trying to cover the knight on g7 and threaten to come to f6 in the future, or h5 or g3. You can't take with the pawn because this is pinned. This is the idea here. Queen to b3, this is the best move actually, because Mikhail is defending the pawn and pinning and threatened to check here with sacrifice materials here. This is best move by Mikhail Tal here. Johann play bishops to f6, protecting the pawn. Knight goes to c6, trying to check here, or he can sacrifice the knight here. In this position, Johann play knight s5, covering this square and trying to infiltrate the king side, because this pawn is pinned here. Queen back to b2, protecting the pawn. Bishops back to g6, g7, he's trying to get rid out of these bishops, and he wants some trade here. Bishops takes, and he takes with the king, and trying to infiltrate the white position. And this is a brilliant move number 2 by Mikhail Tal. If you take with the pawn, then he can take with the knight, and if you are defend your king, and he can take with this knight, and you can't take with this knight because this is pin. If you go here, then he can win the materials. Rook to c5 is an incredible move, by the way. Queen to a6, trying to check here, and he takes with the rook. If he take with the queen, then he can take with the bishops. If he doesn't move his queen, he can remove the rook and attack the queen at the same time. He develops a knight attacking the rook to the b5 square, and he moved the rook to the b8. If you take with the rook, he can take with the knight with the fork to the king, queen, and the bishops. And if you take the knight, then he can just take the queen, and he can take the rook also, and he takes the bishops. And this is an incredible move, because he is forking the bishops and the queen at the same time. If he take with the pawn, then he can take with the check. If he blocks, he can check here. After king h6, he can check with here, and he can win the rooks. And with 3 pass pawn with the knight and the rook, he can easily win the game. Let's back to the game. This is an incredible move here. He check with queen d1, and now Johann play a move which is actually a blunder, but he can threaten to mate in 1. He can threaten to mate in 1 because this square is covered and queen is protected by rook. If in if he got a chance to take the queen in h1, he can the mate the king, but he forgot. Here's some line, because after knight g3 check by the queen, it can't be stopped because it's mate in 4. You can't stop this, and he resigned the game. Here is I show the variation, which is beautiful checkmate by the knight. These all are actually best computer move or mate in 3 combination, because this square is protected by the queen and this entire file is covered by the rook, and e6 square covered by the pawn and threatened to jump the other knight here. After king e7, knight g8, he doesn't have any extra space, so he have to come here, and knight to g5. This is a beautiful checkmate of knight, because knight are covering the entire square here, and queen is covering the dark square, rook is covering the complete 8th file, and pawn is covering the e6 square. Thank you guys, please like, share and subscribe to my videos, and give me any suggestion if you have.